Welcome back to another video. So this is the third part of the graph settings playlist. So in today's video I'm going to be explaining the bullish slash bearish filters and the markers. So starting on, we have the above pivot filter. So this is the concept that is very similar to the clusters. Now here the 90% filter. So what does it actually mean? So it is trying to show that there is 90% probability of reversal from that imprint, and there is only 10% chance of continuation. Now same is for below the pivot. So we have the 90% filter right here indicating that there is only 10% chance of continuation, and there is 90% chance of reversal. Yesterday was FOMC, which was 19th of December 2024. So of course we saw such a great outliner move, leading to the breaking of all the probabilities we had for the upside. Okay, so the next thing we have inside our filters is the average percent filter. So this is trying to show a breakout imprint. Wherever you see this average percent filter, it indicates that this is a breakout level. If the market breaks that level, we're going to see an outliner move. Now same is for above the pivot. If I go to the average percent, so we have the average percent right here. So it is trying to show that if the market breaks that, we are going to see an outliner move. Now it is pretty much making sense that why it is trying to show a outliner move with the breaking of this imprint, because this is a last line of defense, right? Because you see clear area if we break that imprint, and of course then we see clear area from here, and of course then from this imprint right here. So all of these are last line of defense. Okay. So the next thing we have is the group percent filter. So it is just trying to show wherever the market actually formed a cluster. Okay, so the group and the cluster are the same words. So you guys can actually see right here that where this group percent filter actually formed is a place where we also have the cluster. So this tool is very useful to actually get the breakout levels, as well as to actually get the percentage of reversals or the probabilities of reversal. Okay, so I think so this is all that we need to actually know about the filters, and that was actually all we had about the filters. So the next thing we have is the markers. So in the markers, now these concepts are very easy to understand. There's nothing complicated in it. So the first thing we have is the H and L above and below the wave sequence. So basically it's just trying to show that if the market is above the pivot, it's going to form all the highs with H value, with the H alphabet, you could say, and below the pivot it's going to mark it with L. Okay, now if I click on the number of aggregations to the H and L value, okay, so we have actually formed the number of aggregations that actually formed below or above the pivot. Like right here, the market formed 1, 2, 3, 4 aggregations below the pivot on the hourly time frame. So we actually have the L4 value. Now same is for above the pivot. Like right here, the market only formed H1. No, sorry, H2, because if we consider this candle and then this candle, we actually have two highs. Okay, so we have H2 right here and the L4 right here. Okay, so the next thing we have is the show price above and below the wave sequence. So basically what it is trying to show is the high and the low price. Like right here, it is trying to show that at the L4 the price was 515.02. For above the pivot, the H13, we could say we had the price as 539.15. Okay, so the next thing we have is the show the differentials between the H and L price values. So it is considering the differentials, like for example from this H13 to this L3. Okay, so if we just subtract the price of this H13 and subtract the price of this L3, we're gonna get 12.65. Now the H and L percent change, now it is just very similar to the differentials, that it is just converting that 12.65 to the QQQ percentage that actually comes around 2.4. Okay, so the next thing we have is the show the time for the H and L values. So if I click on it, we actually have the time when that L or H value actually formed, like right here. It is trying to show that the L value right here actually formed at 1530, which is 330. Okay, now above the pivot, the H value, okay, so this H value right here actually formed at 230, which is marked by 1430. Okay, so it is in the 24-hour format. So the next thing we have is the show the green support dots when the price is under the pivot line. So if I just zoom in, you guys can actually see the green dots are actually formed wherever we actually have the imprints, these black imprints. So these black imprints are just marked with green dots right here below the pivot amongst the candle, just to show us a visualizations of the support. So the next thing we have is the show the double bottom when there is a 50% chance of achieving it. So basically what it means is that wherever you see the double bottom, it means that there's 50%, 51% chance that the market actually achieves it. Like right here, we had the double bottom right here. Now this double bottom actually only forms on the first open state below the pivot. Okay, wherever you see the first open state below the pivot, there's going to be a double bottom there. Now the double bottom actually forming in the fractal actually forms according to the system. The system actually decides that when there's a need to actually show the double bottom at the first open state below the pivot. Okay, so this was all that we needed to know about the double bottom. Now this can be used as a target. Now it depends according to your trading style. Okay, so we have the show the week, day name, and the day of the week. So it's just trying to show that what was the date and the day when that high formed. So this H13 actually formed on 16th of December 2024 on Monday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where this was Wednesday, where we had FOMC. We can actually see the date right here. So we have the 18th of December, Wednesday, right here. Okay, so the next thing we have is the show the words above or below for the pivot positioning. If the market is above the pivot, the high is going to be marked with the above word, and for below the pivot, it's going to be marked with below. Okay, that is all it is trying to show. The next thing we have is the guidance information. Now this is very useful. Okay, so right here it is also showing us targets, and also it is trying to just give out a very basic information about the fractals. Okay, so you can see right here it is trying to show that above the pivot we have the long trend, and below the pivot we have the short trend, and of course the pivot is a neutral line which is marked with neutral. And you guys can actually see that below the pivot we also have targets, right? If I go on a different time frame, let's say I go to the wave 1015, and of course we can see the targets right here, which actually fall from above the pivot to below the pivot. Okay, so let's say you have a bearish bias and you want to short right here and you are looking for targets. So here the system itself gives you three targets that you can consider for your put play. Okay, so that is all it is trying to show. Now there's one more thing that it is just trying to tell us, that is the show helper information. Now all this helper information I've already explained in the 13-minute video I made with the introduction of the fractals. You guys can actually check out in the RCG YouTube channel. So that was all we had for this third part. Now in the fourth part we're gonna be explaining the cycle analysis and the imprint bands. Thank you so much for watching this video. And